I'm checking to see to make sure I'm streaming. Okay. It's Brother Green and Rivers in the Desert Ministry, rivers of living water in dry places. And we're trying some, I'm getting a little bit better. That's my goal, is to get a little bit better every day. So we're trying some, using this, introducing media into the, more media into the OBS. And studying. I've been doing some studying today, and I wanted to come on and share some of the things that I've learned. And first, I want to read something. And as you know, what I do basically is I've started studying on cryptocurrency. I've started studying on digital currency because I believe that it is one of the ways that we can get out of this whole Babylonian system. And, the banks are afraid of cryptocurrency. They're trying to slow down this whole narrative that the kings of the earth began, this whole narrative of fear. And you know what I'm talking about, but those that know their God, and those that walk in courage are going to excel. They're going to shine like stars in the firmament. And because there's a great transition that's taking place going on right now. And this is why this is one of the things that they did. They pushed their narrative up sooner than they were able to control the narrative. And now the narrative is starting to die down, and the sheets are coming off. And the veil is coming off, and what they're trying to do now is they're trying to put a real rush on things. But there's just too much information. One of the things that I did is I went and I, in order to get out of this bubble, outside of this echo chamber that they have us in, this umbrella of information that they try to put us in, I went and I got myself a VN, what is this here? It's a, let me look real quick, a VPN, a free VPN, and which allows me to, the way the internet was when you first started, you go online, you search for something, you may be talking to somebody over there in Europe, you may be talking to somebody in France, you may be talking to somebody in Sweden. You get outside the umbrella. But then you need to also get a web RTC, which is a leak shield, to make sure, there's no privacy anymore. But anyway, I want to get into some of the things. I wanted to share some of the things I've learned today and share them with you. This is on the channel Crypto Mo and on the channel Crypto Mo on Facebook as well. Mo Crypto, more information about crypto. And as you know, I integrate from a spiritual concept, from a spiritual perspective of what's going on. So let's start out with, I wanted to read something real quick. And from the book of Revelations, and it says, from the book of Revelations, and it says in the 13th chapter, and I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. This is maritime jurisdiction. This is the debt slave system. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were like as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and his great authority. And I saw one of his heads, though, as it was wounded. I saw one of his heads as it was wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, but it was wounded. And so this is what we're in right now. This is the time now when the head has been wounded of the maritime jurisdiction, and the head of the maritime jurisdiction is Mammon. Mammon has been wounded. Mammon has been discovered for being fraud. And so we're in that time right now where we can take advantage of the fact that Mammon has been wounded in our day. So anyway, the once the beast of the land begins to rise up, then we're going near the end of this chapter. We're going to see that he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and causes the earth and them which dwell therein to worship him. This is the 12th verse. The worship therein to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed, and he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast which had the wound by the sword and did live. Remember, we said that was Mammon. So the control of the people is going to pretty much evaporate right now. A person is going to have to really be pretty slow to say, I'd rather be controlled. And so that control is going to be lost. But then it's going to come back, and it's going to be the most oppressive system that's ever take place on this earth. And he says he's going to have power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he caused all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666, or 666. And it's everyone that's going to rely upon the earth condition. The earthen condition are those that will have the mark. Everyone that relies on the gravitational pull downward, instead of excelling and instead of ascending in their inheritance in Jesus Christ, are going to have to deal with these things, because the sign is given in the speed of the earth. The earth is one, and the entire earth, as it revolves around the sun, is traveling at the speed of a man. It moves at 66,600 miles an hour. Even the very chemical, physical structure of man is an implication of the beast system. 6 carbons, 6 carbons, 6 protons, 6 electrons. You know, the carbon 6 is 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons. Carbon 6. We're carbon-based creatures. And so everything that relies on this natural realm is going to be subject to the natural realm. So we don't want to do that. We want to realize what time it's in right now and walk according to the righteousness of God. So anyway, I had a couple of things that I wanted to share with you this evening, and one of them is let me see here. One of them was one second here. Bear with me. Okay, I've got my other monitor going here now. And it's the time of harvest, folks. And now is the time of harvest. The harvest is great. The laborers are few. And so pray ye to the Lord of harvest that he'll send laborers into the field. And I don't know why I've got so dark here in my studio. I don't know what's going on. But we're going to get right into this because I've got a document that I want to read from what I've studied today, and it's going to take me a little time to read it. Even with the font, it's about 10 pages long. But the news, right now, the banks, as I mentioned, this narrative that they've tried to sway the sheep with and the cattle, and get the cattle to self-administer destruction to themselves. Self-administer destruction, this narrative is now beginning to wear thin. And so what they're doing now is they're rushing in to they're trying to speed up the process. Excuse me. They're trying to speed up the process of this entire gaining access to the to crypto, to the cryptocurrency sector. But I don't know why I can't interact with this. Let me go back to something else and see if it'll allow me to interact. 1 second here. Okay. Mic, computer cam, mic. Well, it switches to it, but it's not letting me interact. So bear with me here. Let me try something else. No. I'm like one of these people that get a hold of something and that just won't let it go. I'm one of them. But full screen. Let me go full screen and see what it. No. Still no. Well, let me see if I can find this article online and. Okay, it's a Barron's article, Why Cryptos Are a Threat to Central Banks. Man, I tell you what, I just really hate not being able to interact like I want. There it is. Continue reading this article with the description. So that's what it is. It's about the money. So the why central banks and crypto is a threat to central banks. And the article states that most of us go to the Bahamas for sun and surf. Central bankers may be visiting for another reason, to check out the country's new digital currency. And did y'all read where El Salvador made Bitcoin an acceptable legal tender? And now that's a real play on words, too, when you realize legal tender is not backed by anything. But the Bahamas is one of the 3 countries to launch a digital currency along with China and Cambodia. Sand dollars are now loaded into the mobile wallets of smartphones or buy beer, scan a QR code, and this more convenient swiping a credit card or using a grubby dollar bill. Digital currencies aren't yet widespread, but the race is on to get them into circulation as battle lines become harder between cryptocurrencies and standbys like the dollar. And then more than 85% of the central banks are now investigating digital versions of their currencies, conducting experiments or move into pilot programs. So anyway, that's that article, folks. I recommend you look it up and read it. I won't read the whole thing, but they've been caught flat-footed. It's what has happened. This technology has advanced so fast that it's caught them flat-footed. I don't know if I covered this with you before, but I think I'll load it again because I think it's worth repeating in this, in the first few segments of this new broadcast that I'm starting, this new venue. The growth rate of Bitcoin. The growth rate of Bitcoin. History. The history and growth rate. Let's see if I can find it. Because it was a Bitcoin history. Yeah, here it is right here. This is it. No, this ain't it. This is a Wikipedia site. That's not the one I want. Yeah, I'm not looking for Wikipedia. Here, let me see if this is it here. The history chart. I'm gonna have to save this page because I really like the way it's laid out. And this thing here has really caught most people flat-footed. And the ones that it's really going to catch flat-footed is I'm telling you, those that really rely on the system is in for a real surprise. Let's see here, make a new scene. I'm going to have to add this so that I use it each time because I use it the last few times. Okay, audio input, mic, video capture, use my cam for this one here, and then the browser. I'm getting pretty good at this software, folks. I can build these sites now even while I'm talking, and I can build them and edit at the same time, and so it takes away from that time factor where it took me about 2 hours to build a broadcast. I can build a broadcast while I'm online with people now, so I'm pretty excited about that. I can build a broadcast, build a page while I'm online. Like this thought just came to me, and I wanted to show it to you again. And here it is. It's the history of Bitcoin. And as you can see, this is what I like about this page is this site, 2010, Bitcoin is 6 cents. 2012, it's $6. That's over, 6 cents to $6. Golly, that's got to be, I don't know, 100,000%. Good gracious! If you bought, I don't have my calculator with me, but if you bought it that time and you at 6 cents and you had like 1,000 shares of it, y'all figure that out in your head. 1,000 shares times 600 pennies. Isn't that $6? 600 pennies times 1,000. That's $600,000. That's 1,000 shares back then. How much would that have cost you at 6 cents a share? So anyway, 2014, it goes to $680. So 2014, $800 is where it sort of $800. It goes between $600, $800 during. You can see that rise there during 2014. 2016, it drops down to 400. 2018, it goes to $5,000. In 2018, it rises to 14, comes back down to 3, rises to 10, comes down to 7, rises up in 2020, 8,000, 9,000, 2020, 10,000, 2021, January 2021 is $37,000. 2021 to the high of about, it goes to a high of about 58, I think, somewhere around there. And then where it's at right now, I don't know, was it at 33? I'm not sure where it's at right now. The current price now is 32.7. 32.7 is where it's at right now, and it's clearly has made an impact on this. And you've got these institutions now, boy, they're sucking wind because this volatility has caught them by surprise, and people are becoming very wealthy in a matter of months. So the market, to give you an idea of what the market is, I've been learning now. I've been trying to study and learn the difference between the market cap and the circulating supply and the volume, and as it relates to the price. So I've been looking over at coin market cap, and as you see, Bitcoin, and from what I've learned, the price is really not the price is not a real indication of the value of the stock, but rather the market cap. The market cap determines the actual price, from what I've learned to understand so far. But I'm still, I'm not at the point where, this is not any, forgive me, this is not any way investment advice. It's just that I'm sharing what I've learned, and this is for entertainment only. You got to do your own research. I'm just sharing what I've learned up to this point. And some of these tools that I would recommend that you become familiar with, for instance, Coin Market Cap, list like 5,000 of the various cryptocurrencies. And for a strong portfolio, I would recommend really studying the first maybe 10 or 20. You've got Bitcoin, you've got Ethereum, that at 2,400. You've got this Binance coin is an exchange, and one of the things you want to be aware of is where and how you can use the Binance exchange. You've got to address that question of 14th Amendment citizenship to some degree, I believe, in order to properly utilize the Binance chain and the Binance coin. Cardano is an up-and-coming coin. All of these coins right now are in this first top 10. In my opinion, the first top 10 coins are pretty much like shooting, as my friend used to say, Mr. Mack, he used to say, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. It's like finding a bird nest on the ground right now, because the market is in a downturn. So Bitcoin at 32, that's a bargain. Ethereum at 28 is a bargain. Binance coin, I haven't really been studying their coin that much, but Cardano, I've been following that. Cardano is, when you take a look at Cardano, let me see if I can show you. It's at 151, that's sort of a deal, I mean, you look at Cardano and you look at the price is 111 here, and it's went up to these highs of what is that, $2? So, and it's going to gain more momentum. It's got a an actual utility, is what they say in this industry. It has a function. As many of these coins in this first 10 group have an actual function, but let me refresh this page here. But now you'll find some mime coins in this first group as well. Like I think I think Doge at one time was up here in the first. Yeah, it's number 6, and Doge is at 32 cents. I think even the mime coin is a good deal at that price. But like I said, don't quote me. Do your own research. XRP is currently in some litigation, and it looks like they're going to win their litigation at 84 cents. XRP is a deal. As a matter of fact, when you take a look at XRP, and like I say, I'm still learning what may actually be a deal. I don't know. I'm just a novice. I don't claim to know this stuff, folks. That's why I say do your own research. But when I look at this graph though, and I see this spike, this is pretty much indicative of what it's going to do in the future. Not always, but that's at 80 something cent and $3 there. $1.52 before this recent correction. But that's what you want to do. You go to CoinMarketCap and take a look at the first 10, 20 coins is what you want to start experimenting with doing your studies. And like I say, I'm willing to share information as I learn. Polkadot, I've heard a lot of news on Polkadot, as far as people that are following Litecoin, Chainlink, Solana, Theta is another coin, XLM, VChain, let's see here. There's another one here that I wanted to point out Pancake Swap is an exchange used quite a bit for Binance, and the Shiba Inu is a mime coin. There's quite a bit of the news out there. Algorand is a coin that may be quite a bit undervalued, this Algorand. But anyway, this is where you want to go to. You want to go to CoinMarketCap, and then you can go to you can do some research on these coins there. The other article that I wanted to share with you was that El Salvador has moved to make Bitcoin legal tender. And this is a milestone, a monetary milestone where and I think this was done at the recent, I guess they had a expo or something in Miami. Oh, the conference in Miami. June 5th, they had a conference in Miami. And the El Salvador president announced that the Central American country is in the process of adopting Bitcoin as a legal tender, a move that would make El Salvador the first country to deem Bitcoin as an official national currency. And so this is I know people say that this is a really good move, and in a way I do agree for it to be acceptable, but this is really blending private with public in a way, and those that don't understand the difference between government regulating their currency and non-governmental regulating their currency may not escape Babylon. those that don't understand the real implications there. Well, the if you like these things that I'm sharing with you, if you like these things that I'm sharing with you, please, hit the subscribe button and let me know that you're learning something, and hit the like button, and please subscribe to the channel so you are aware when I do these broadcasts, okay, so that you'll get a notice of when I'm doing them. The final thing I wanted to cover is I wanted to cover the difference between centralized and decentralized. And I was able to locate an article that I thought was pretty good in the centralized versus decentralized on the BitDegree, which is the BitDegree site, which is a tutorial, and learn the difference between centralization and decentralized systems and the pros and cons, and so that you can better grasp what's actually happening here. Because when you begin to see what's really taking place in our time right now and grasp how you can get out of under the thumb of the rule of the kings of the earth and comprehend what's taking place and comprehend how you can actually gain control of your true value and your true energy and the current. You can get control over the current, the power, the current. The Lord says you're the salt of the earth. You're the sodium chloride. Salt in its soluble stage is highly conductive. In other words, for electricity, you're the electricity on this earth. You're the current. You're the light. So when you begin to understand this is why the banks they're going out by the way of Blockbuster. And the people that rely on mammon and fiat currency, they're going to wake up one day and the banks are going to tell them, we don't have it. We don't have it. And we'll give you X number of what you thought you had if you accept our rules and our regulations and our authority in exchange. And what they're wanting to do is they're wanting to roll this thing out pretty much just like China, where they can put a expiration date on your currency. So if you don't use it by a certain time, you just out of luck. You just flat out of luck. They're gonna say, well, you didn't use it in time. So it's go. Look it up, folks. I'm not just making this stuff up. I heard from God these days that we're moving in right now. You need to hear from God. You need to hear from God for your children, for your children's children, for your children's children's children, that they can be free. They can be free upon this earth. And they're going to call your children and your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, or rise up and call you blessed for realizing what time it is right now. Anyway, let me read this real quick, and it's about 11:56 here. I imagine it's going to take me maybe an hour to read this. So you've been researching, and you know what? It's unfair for me not to mention the writer's name. And the writer of this article, his name is... he may have given up his name to put it on this site. He might have. His name is... her name, excuse me. Is it? Let me see if she's the author here. She goes by Laura M. Laura M. And she's the senior editor at BitDegree. Laura M. And this was last updated January 5th, 2021. And it begins with, so you've been researching Bitcoin and blockchain, and you keep stumbling across the term decentralization. But what does decentralization mean? Well, today I'm going to define decentralized in terms so that anyone, including you, can understand it. That's why I'll make a centralized versus decentralized comparison. Excuse me 1 second. Let me make sure I'm still streaming. Okay, we're live there. And we're live there. Okay, good. Studio mode. Okay. Sorry about that. My mind does that every now and then. Okay, that's why I'll make a centralized versus decentralized comparison. Decentralization is one of the most important benefits of using a blockchain protocol. So it's really important that you understand the advantages it can bring to today's society. In this centralized versus decentralized guide, I will start by explaining what centralization means, along with a list of its disadvantages. After that, I will then explain what decentralization is and what makes it so different. To make things easier for you, I will give you some examples of the different industries that could benefit from using a decentralized system. By the end of the reading my centralized versus decentralized guide, you will have all of the information you need to decide which system you think is better. So what are you waiting for? Let's start by exploring the term centralization. Okay, in the table of contents, she's got what does centralization mean? What does decentralization mean? Centralized versus decentralized use cases, payment system, government voting, energy, the Internet of Things. Centralized versus decentralized, which will rule the future? Which will rule the future? Conclusion. So the first heading, what does centralization means? Before I explain the exact meaning of centralization, I want you to think about some of the systems that you use every day, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, your bank account, or practically anything else that you may use. These are all controlled by centralized authorities. This means that for a data transaction to be verified, a third-party intermediary must do this on your behalf. Let me explain this further by using the example of Yahoo. Perhaps you want to send your friend a private email containing some funny pictures from a party. You sign into your Yahoo account, you type up the email, upload the pictures, and then send it to your friend. At this moment in time, you think about what information Yahoo has on you. When you first registered an account with Yahoo, you had to provide your personal information such as your full name, nationality, and date of birth. After that, every single email that you sent is stored internally on the Yahoo centralized servers. This means that you must trust Yahoo. You must trust that they will keep all of your data private. Furthermore, you need to trust that they don't use this data for their benefit, such as selling it to advertising companies, which, as we know, they do. They often do. This can often be the case. In 2015, Yahoo experienced one of the biggest hacks of all time. A group of hackers was able to gain access to their centralized servers, allowing them to view private emails within millions of accounts. The reason they were able to gain access to all this information was that Yahoo uses centralized servers. If this central point of failure is hacked, then the entire network is at risk. To clarify, I've identified 3 issues with centralized systems. You have to trust that the centralized organization are going to keep your data safe. Number 2, they have full control over the system and your data. Number 3, if the main servers are compromised, data is at risk. These issues are not just related to Yahoo, but almost every single system that you can ever use. So now that you know what centralization is, the next part of my centralized versus decentralized guide is going to define decentralization. What does decentralization mean? Before I give you some real-world examples of a decentralization definition, I thought I would explain some of its main issues. Firstly, decentralization was first made possible using blockchain technology. The first ever blockchain was the Bitcoin client, which was created in 2009. Was created in 2009 when somebody sends Bitcoin to someone else. Transactions are not verified by a centralized authority. Instead, anyone can hook up their computer to Bitcoin system to help verify the movement of funds. Each device that is connected to the system is called a node, N-O-D-E. And in total, there are thousands of independent nodes all helping to operate the network. This means that for the network to be hacked, hackers would need to take control of every single node. This is almost impossible. This also means that the blockchain is the safest and the most secure way to send and receive funds. However, the important thing to remember is that the decentralization isn't just for financial transactions. As I will explain further down, decentralized systems can be used in almost every industry in the world. The second thing to remember is that people don't need to identify themselves to interact with a decentralized system. They simply use a private and a public key, meaning they can remain anonymous. Thirdly, a decentralized system that operates on the blockchain is controlled by no single authority. Let's rewind that. A decentralized system that operates on the blockchain is controlled by no single authority, nor is it backed by any centralized government, nation, or nation state. Let that sort of simmer a little bit. Let's read that again. A decentralized system that operates on the blockchain is controlled by no single authority, nor is it backed by any centralized government or nation state. Instead, control is distributed fairly to anyone that wants to use the system. This makes society fair, as it takes control away from powerful corporations. It takes control away from powerful corporations. Overall, these benefits would have made it near impossible for the Yahoo servers to be hacked in 2015. So now that you know what decentralization is, in the next part of my centralized versus decentralized guide, I am going to give you some real-world examples of how decentralized systems could make the world a better place. Centralized versus decentralized use cases. Number 1, payment systems. The obvious starting point would be to talk about the global payment system, as this was the original idea behind the world's first decentralized cryptocurrency. This was the original idea behind the world's first decentralized currency, Bitcoin. Every single bank in the world operates on centralized servers. Every single bank is centralized and operates on centralized servers. The slave system, Babylon's slave system, operates on centralized servers. Y'all getting that? The slave system operates and is operated by the centralized banking cartels, the privately owned central banks. This means that they have access to your entire financial activities, and everything is attached to mammon. Everything's attached to money. They know how much you're paid, where you spend your money, who you send your money to, and everything else related to your bank account. Furthermore, if somebody was able to get hold of your internet banking password, or even worse, hack the bank's centralized servers, they would have access to all this information. If the centralized service fails, which happens all the time, then you could be denied access to your funds. When we compare centralized versus decentralized, a decentralized payment system solves all of these issues. When you use a cryptocurrency to send or receive payments, when you use a cryptocurrency to send or receive payments, you don't need to rely on a third party to confirm the transaction. This is why Bitcoin and some of the other cryptocurrencies are called peer-to-peer digital currencies, as there's no requirement for a third party. Fees are substantially less, and in some cases are practically free. This makes cryptocurrencies perfect when sending or receiving a payment from someone in a different country, as companies like Western Union charge high amounts. Decentralized systems are borderless, so that it makes no difference if you're sending someone some money to someone in your hometown or sending money to someone on the other side of the world. It takes the same amount of time, and the fees are all the same. Your funds are also much more secure when using a decentralized system. The only person that has access to your money is you, because you are the only one that has the private keys to access your funds. If you follow the correct safety measures, no one can find out what these private keys are. Overall, a global system that is decentralized has the following advantages. Okay, let me check my stream again. That one's okay, and that one seems okay. And once again, I wanted to remind you that if you would, hit that like button and let me know that you hit the like button, and also subscribe to the channel. And it doesn't cost you anything, but it helps my channel views go up on the YouTube algorithms. So anyway, I'm glad that you decided to tune in this evening, as a matter of fact. This is really vital for us to understand if we're going to get out of the control of, the system. And I after watching what just happened with this last debacle, sometimes I wonder, how many people actually want to get free of the system. It makes you sort of wonder who wants to get free. It makes you sort of think that a lot of people would much rather be controlled. You sit up and you watch. You watch this narrative right now that they're not even trying to change the narrative anymore. They're parroting this same narrative now, and it has lost the steam. It doesn't have the same steam anymore. And anyone can do the research and find out that the narrative is not accurate. But, I think that I really believe that it's all for a reason. And I think there's just a certain number of people that may be better off free, and a certain number of people that may be better off in, I have a hard time even saying that. I can't see how people in their own mind would be better off in bondage. You know, a friend of mine, something that always stays with me is something a friend said. And he said, you know, he says, Brother Green, he says, you're going to do it. You're going to do it either easy God's way or you're going to do it hard God's way. But no matter how you do it, it's going to be God's way. It's time for the harvest right now. So if you don't know the Lord Jesus Christ as your personal Savior, all you have to do is say, Lord, forgive me my sins, cleanse me from all righteousness, save me, heal me, wash me white as snow, and teach me truth. And let God teach you the truth instead of men. It's much better to learn the truth from God than to learn the truth from men and women. Seemed like something just came loose. Oh, you know what? I think it's my cord. 1 second here. Let me finish this up because I wanted to spend a little time having some fun on my board. Let me see if I can show you my board, as a matter of fact. And so I wanted to have a little time on my board, have me some fun this evening. So let me finish this here and this reading. So government voting, and I can almost skip this whole thing here, but I'll read it because I really like how this writer made everything comprehensible in layman terms. She's a very, very prolific writer, and you don't even have to look up any words or anything. It's very, very simple and easy the way she wrote this, and you can tell by reading it that she has a very good cognitive grasp of these two differences within this sector, centralized and decentralized, which are the main differences between mammon and crypto. And for the next example in the centralized versus decentralized, I'm back to reading now. For the main example in this centralized versus decentralized guide, I'm going to discuss government voting in the majority of countries. Governments are elected by their citizens in regular elections. This process should be simple. Everyone should be allowed one equal vote, and it should be carried out in a fair and transparent process. And I've got some personal issues with the whole concept of voting, because it's really more of a tactic. Well, it's not so much of a tactic, because you are taking an active role in giving your consent to be under corporate rule, is what you're doing by the vote. But I won't get that's for a whole different discussion, folks. That you're going to have to catch me. You're going to have to catch me on the next time when I'm talking about those topics. This is a good example she's using. However, let me get back to reading. However, even in the Western world, this isn't always the case. What's not always the case? Let me go back and follow my train of thought. For the next example in centralized versus decentralized guide, I am going to discuss the government voting. In majority of countries, governments are elected by their citizens in a regular election. This process should be simple. Everyone should be allowed one equal vote, and it should be carried out in a fair and transparent process. However, even in this Western world, this isn't always the case. In the most recent U.S. election of 2016, which is not the most recent, but this is an older article, President Trump from the Republican Party won, making him the new president. During the election, every citizen over the age of 18 had the chance to vote for the president they wanted, which of course is the fairest way to run the election. However, there was lots of media reports and conspiracies soon after which were claiming the vote had been manipulated. There was even a full investigation of whether the Russian government somehow manipulated the process. However, because the public cannot access the voting data, there is no way for people to know whether this is true or not. Not only this, but there has also been many times where governments have fraudulently won an election by manipulating the votes. One such solution to these threats is voting on a decentralized system. This system is transparent and will allow all voters to view where each vote is coming from and the legitimacy of each vote. It would guarantee that the people only get one vote, and there would be no way for the decentralized government voting system to be manipulated. There is one cryptocurrency called Votecoin, which has created a cryptocurrency that will allow people to vote on a safe, secure, and anonymous platform, ensuring that the result is fair and transparent. I wonder how long it will be until the first decentralized governmental vote takes place on an application similar to this. To summarize, here are some of the advantages of a decentralized voting system. 1, no chance of election fraud or manipulation due to the transparency of the network. 2, no possibility of threats from governmental forces due to anonymity. So now that you know about the possible decentralization governmental election sector, the next part of my centralized versus decentralized guide is going to look at energy. Electricity is a human right that all citizens should have. Power is something that citizens have. And, it's not, anyway, I'll leave that alone too. Energy is a God-given right, not a human right. But anyway, that's another subject altogether. Whether it's to light your home, power your cooker, and simply heat your water, electricity is needed by all of us. However, the current centralized system is everything but fair. A standard process works like this. A private, centralized organization acts as the middleman between the citizen and the national grid. The national grid is an infrastructure that connects people's homes to the electricity supply. However, these centralized third parties choose how much they charge people, meaning that they make huge profits on something that should be classed as a basic human right. I'm not saying that electricity should be free, but there should be no need to have a centralized third party charging us these ridiculous prices. One solution that is currently being built is by a decentralized organization called Power Ledger. By using blockchain technology, they've developed a system that cuts out the middleman. Here's how it works. Number 1, John has solar panels on his house and uses the electricity he needs. Number 2, John has extra electricity left over, which he plans to sell. Number 3, normally he would have to sell it back to the electric company. However, with the help of Power Ledger, he can sell it to someone else directly at fair market value. Number 4, his readings are posted to the public blockchain, and anybody in the local area can buy the extra electricity from him. Not only does John get a better price, but so does the buyer. All of this can be done without the help of a centralized third party. As you can see from the above example, by cutting out the third party, both the buyer and the seller gets a better deal for their electricity. Nobody can cheat the system because everything is available to view on the blockchain. To make things even more secure, the buyer and the seller can trade using cryptocurrency, which allows for an almost instant and free transaction. Here's an overview of the advantages. Pros: the fair market price for both the buyer and seller. Number 2, no need for a third party who profits from both the buyer and the seller. Number 3, buyer pays in cryptocurrency, which is quicker and cheaper than traditional payment methods. So now that you can define decentralized in the energy sector, the next part of my centralized versus decentralized guide is going to look at something called the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things. The Internet of Things, otherwise shortened to IoT, is a new and exciting term that is the result of cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. In its simplest form, IoT, the Internet of Things, is used to describe devices that are connected to the internet. You know why I did that first is because literally, according to grammar, before you use an acronym, you should define what the acronym is. But I see so many readings now that I've read where they jump right off the cliff using acronyms and no definition of what the acronym is. You got to go online and look it up. So it's sort of a habit of mine where you might find me describe an acronym a couple of times before I begin to blend it into the reading. And so you guys just bear with me. Anyway, the IoT, the Internet of Things, is used to describe devices that are connected to the internet. Back in the early days of the internet, only desktop computers could connect to the World Wide Web, followed by laptops and then mobile phones. I had a friend of mine one time. He was a white guy from Africa, and cool brother. He's real cool. This guy was so smart, man. I tell you, he could take a computer out in the parking lot with no wires, and all he had was electricity, and would hook up to the internet. That boy was sharp, man. And this is when you needed a modem to hook up, But I wonder what Andrew is up to now. He had a warped sense of humor, though, but he was cool. He's cool. He's a cool dude. So anyway, the IoT, the Internet of Things, takes things, all of the above examples, for instance, and which currently exist in a decentralized system. For example, it's now possible to buy a car that drives by itself. As a matter of fact, I was just talking to my wife, and I thought it was really interesting. If you notice now, these newer cars, sometimes with these newer cars, it's almost like you're sort of wrestling with the steering wheel. And what it is they're integrating these new systems in these cars. They're not going to take over all at once, but it's sort of like a wrestle right now. You can feel going around a curve, where it's saying, no, you need to lean into this curve a little bit more. Or when you come out of the curve and it brings you out of the curve late or early, and you can feel it, But what they're eventually going to want to do, folks, is they want to make it to where it's illegal for citizens to operate vehicles. So you need to understand that terminology now for persons to operate vehicles and say, no, I'm not operating a vehicle, but I'm conveying my personal, private property from point A to point V. I'm not operating a vehicle according to the statute definition. But I think this whole system, this corporate system, I think the money is going to be the final blow to crash it. This decentralized currency is going to crash it. And I think there's going to be so few people that say, I want control, that are going to be too lazy to take and comprehend what's taking place, that they're going to see the advantage. And what's going to happen is it's just going to be a huge wealth transfer. And some people are going to just get caught, left in the dust. It's going to be just the wealth of the wicked laid up for who? Laid up for righteous. It could say that the wealth of the ignorant is laid up. Laid up for the righteous. Study and pray and watch and see what God says. Watch what God's doing. Study and pray. However, let's get back to reading, okay? These driverless cars connect to the internet and can take you to your destination without you needing to do a simple thing. One simple thing. However, this data is controlled by a centralized system. This means that if the system ever failed, or even worse, was hacked, then the data that is being sent to the car could be corrupted. As you can imagine, this could be life-threatening. So not only this, but the centralized company that manages the data also has access to all your information. They know where you've been, they know where you're going, they know where you live, they know where you work, they know what times you get up, they know when you go to sleep. It's a lot of private information that the centralized system has. Taking this thing a step further, whereby practically every device can be connected to the internet, whether it's your washing machine, car, TV, bathtub, or every physical device, can be improved by being constantly connected to data. Think about what they could do with this information. Sell it, advertising companies, share it to make insurance companies, or even worse, give it to the government. That's why, I tell people nowadays, it's a dangerous thing to, if you're married, back when I took a class not too long ago on that dealt with the Internet of Things, and it was a communications class, and they said, for these new televisions, don't argue in front of the television, or they'll start showing you divorce commercials, divorce attorneys. The ads will start running. But moving the IoT, Internet of Things, to a centralized system would remove all of these possibilities. All of the data would be stored on the blockchain, and it would never reveal any private information, nor would the data face the risk of being hacked. The example of a driverless car could be applied to every single device in the world. It could make broadband decentralized, GPS decentralized, telecommunications decentralized, and much more. So here's the summary of benefits as far as decentralization would offer to the Internet of Things. Pros: users, the data would be kept private, near impossible for hackers to access the data, no chance of the system failing, anonymous, only the individual with the private key could access the information. Okay. I think we're just about wrapping this up. So now that you know how decentralization could benefit the Internet of Things, the next part of my centralized versus decentralized guide is going to look at whether decentralization will ever play a big role in society. Centralized versus decentralized, which will rule the future? If you have read my centralized versus decentralized guide to this point, you should now have a good understanding of the benefits of decentralization. Ultimately, it is about removing control. Let's say that again. Ultimately is about removing control. Ultimately, it's about removing control from the few. Ultimately, it's about removing control from the few. Ultimately, it's about removing control from the few corporations and centralized governments and giving it to the masses. As such, it will make everyday life safer, fairer, faster, cheaper, transparent, and more anonymous. It is for this reason that in the next 10 years, I think we will see more and more organizations become decentralized. However, it's very important to remember that if this happens, then large corporations are going to fight back. They're going to fight back. They're going to come up with fraudulent schemes. They're going to come up with fear. They're going to come up with fake diseases. They're going to even come up with ways to get people to self-administer hazardous materials to themselves, because then they can go in and they can collect on their estates. They can collect on their estates and their values. If we see the move toward decentralization, it will be joined with a move to take the cattle to the market. This was very prophetic, what she said here. Corporations will fight back. You've got some major corporations right now that are trying to fight against decentralization, but they've already lost. The horse done got out of the barn. There's no way to put a bridle or a saddle on the horse. The only one that can ride this horse is the people. So evidently they will never want to lose. They will never want to lose the control that they have, because if they do, they will not only lose money, but also power. Man, that's powerful when you begin to see what's actually going on. Why your minds are being made to believe that crypto is a bad thing. Why are your minds being made to believe those things? Because it will cause the systems in place to lose power and money. God is causing us to be moving into this day. It's unstoppable. It's going to take place. It's already taken place. That's why you see these governments trying to get a foothold and trying to get ahead of this thing. You know, that's why you see China. China's one of the most oppressive governments other than the U.S. And you see them trying to get ahead of this thing. They're trying to get in front of it. You know, they want to get it to a point where they can corral the people into it. So if you can't stop it, put an expiration date on it to where you can turn it off. And God said eventually it's going to be no man can buy or sell except he had the mark of the beast or the number of his name. And so unless he was corralled into an institutionalized, centralized system where they've got control, but control within a digital realm, and they've interfaced them to it. They have them interfaced to the system. So inevitably, the larger corporations, they're going to fight back, and they're not going to want to lose the control that they have, because if they lose the control, they're going to lose the control, the power, and the money. So this is where things get sticky. First, centralized governments may try to enforce strict regulations on decentralized organizations, which mean that they could demand access to personal data. However, because decentralized systems are not controlled by a single entity, it might be difficult for decentralized organizations to follow their demands. It might be difficult. Then when it comes to the major institutions, they may decide to introduce the technology of their own, which competes with their decentralized rivals. As they have the financial resources, they can quite easily create a similar system that still gives them an element of control. And some people are also worried about quantum computing, which is an advanced computer that is being explored by NASA and the CIA. It is predicted that these quantum computers will be so powerful that they could one day rule over decentralized systems. If this is the case, then decentralized could fail. However, various blockchain projects are already aware of this and are creating new protocols that could potentially prevent a quantum attack. Conclusion, and that's the end of my centralized versus decentralized guide. I hope you now have a really good idea of how the centralized network works and its disadvantages. You should also know what decentralization is and how it solves the many problems that the world faces today. Decentralized technology is still in its very early days. However, the advantages that it brings to our modern society are endless. One sector that I feel would benefit most from decentralization is government voting. I feel that the election is one of the most important events in the world and one that the people should have complete power over. So that's a real win in this decentralized versus centralized, in this centralized versus decentralized battle. Okay, there you have it, folks. Centralized versus decentralized. What is the difference? And that was a very, very good article written by Laura M. Let's see, is that what she said? Laura M. I thought Laura M. is what she goes by, and she's the senior editor at BitDegree. And you can find the site at bitdegree.org, bitdegree.org. And I'm going to bring this broadcast to a close. It's Brother Green, Rivers in the Desert Ministry.